Hi, everybody, and welcome to week 2 of our summer special of Orthodoxy Q&A. Now, Presbyter and I are probably on a beach somewhere right about now, but don't worry, we're going to be back August 7th. So we've still got those questions that you've been asking in your comments, and we're going to go ahead and continue on with those. So let's get started with that. All right, our first question comes from Tampa 234. Hey, Tampa, that's where our first apartment was, so awesome. Father, you state that the canons specify red sweet wine. Could you be specific as to which canons? I have seen dry white wine used regularly by one of the 14 autocephalous Orthodox churches. So great question, because I did say that, and I think what happened after a little bit more digging and some research, I found the canon that said that wine must be mixed with water, but I did not specifically find sweet red wine. So where did I go? There is a wonderful series of books that I received as a gift from one of our wonderful listeners, Answers to Liturgical Questions by Ioannis Fontoulis. And there is a number of questions, and one of those questions is it right for pure white wine to be used in the holy chalice for the bloodless sacrifice, even if in an emergency? And so I'm going to read some of this to you from his answer that I think provides just the answer you're looking for here. Pure natural fruit of the vine is offered during divine liturgy. The use of chemical substances or wine mixed with foreign ingredients must be avoided. All right? As to the color, in the East, although relevant guidance does not exist, red wine is used to more closely resemble blood. But in the West, the white in order that the coverings not be stained. In a true emergency, the priest can apply the economia required according to his judgment, while always abiding in wine being the fruit of the vine as a necessary presupposition. So the answer to your question is, yes, white wine in some circumstances can be used and has been used, but it is the tradition and the practice of the East to use red wine. All right, next question, Scuba Dude SG. In response to, is the gold altar book the Bible? Why isn't Revelations included? Oh, wait, the epistles of Paul are also not included. So actually, you're correct on both counts. The Orthodox Church begrudgingly accepted Revelations into the canon of the Church. But the Orthodox Church refuses to read from Revelations from the altar. Okay? And they do that for 3 reasons in particular, and I want to make sure I get the reasons right. Number 1, the Orthodox Church has a question concerning authorship about which of the Johns, was it John of Patmos or was it the evangelist John who wrote that? So that's one reason. Number 2, Revelations uses a highly complex and symbolic language, and this can lead to multiple interpretations and even worse, misinterpretations. And so the church fathers wanted to be very careful with this very complex book. Number 3, what has happened with Revelations, as you see today, happened in the early church, and the patristic fathers warned about this, is that there is an uber focus on dissecting and interpreting the prophecies that are in Revelation, and much time is spent on end time calculation. So we're taking our time away from what we should be doing, which is the commandments that Christ has given to us, and we're focusing on interpretation of prophecy and when is Jesus coming. And this is inappropriate. It takes us away from watchfulness, which is what Christ has commanded us. And then in answer about the epistles, remember, the gospel book on the altar is the 4 gospels. What is read before that are the epistles. In that book that is read by the reader in the Orthodox Church, is contained the letters of St. Paul and what we call the Catholic epistles. James, Peter, 1st and 2nd John, 1st and 2nd Peter, so on and so forth. So if you take the gold book on the altar and you take the epistle book minus Revelations and you put them together, then you have then you have the New Testament. And you're right, you don't have the Old Testament. That is read during the Vespers of the previous evening. Unfortunately, Old Testament readings are not collected in a book the way they are with the Gold Gospel book and the Epistle book. They are contained within the Vesper service itself. So it's not like we have an Old Testament book that we read from, but they are incorporated as part of the Vesper service. All right, next question from Gen Z Philosophy. I like that. 5706. Why would some priests not offer a blessing when asked? All right, great question. Because generally speaking, if someone asks a priest for a blessing, then they should give that blessing. But there are times when they are asking for something inappropriate. I'll give you an example from my own experience. I had a parishioner who owned a dance club, okay? And he asked me if I could go ahead and bless the place. And I told him, no, I'm not blessing that because of the activity that's happening in that particular bar. Although I did say that my blessing, if I did one, would be that all the girls would find another job, and he told me no. But if you are asking for something that is non-Christian or inappropriate, then the priest rightfully will withhold his blessing. All right, next from Jesus Artega, 8130, can I be buried with a crucifix? So typically, Orthodox Christians are not buried with an icon, and the reason for that is why would you have an icon of Christ when you're going to meet Christ, okay? So it's like taking a picture of Grandpa with you when you're going to see Grandpa, all right? So we typically do not bury you with an icon. But yes, you can be buried with the crucifix. Normally, you'll see the crucifix in the lid of the coffin, or many times, and especially I think in the Russian tradition, you'll see where they'll actually be holding it in their hand. So yes, you can. All right, a great question from Eden 3888. Can someone who suspect having demon possession take Holy Communion? Is it permitted? Well, actually, the answer to this is that the demons would not allow the person to receive Holy Communion. If they were actually possessed, then the demons would command them that you will not approach the cup of Christ. So I don't think that that's ever going to happen. Now, if someone is suspected of being possessed, then the answer to that question is that that person should go to the priest and say, hey, I've been feeling strange lately. I don't know what this is. So this is why I've not come up to receive communion. What do you think? So in both of those cases, or in each one of those cases, the demons will not allow it. But if someone is suspect, then they should go and they should talk to their priest and find out what is the appropriate next step. All right. Question from Armory Boozle 01. I believe I wasn't given a baptismal name. I was baptized as Catholic in Mexico as a child, but when I converted to Orthodoxy, I wasn't baptized, but I was chrismated. The priest said that me being baptized as Catholic as a child, I don't need to be baptized again. Should I do something about it? The short answer to that question is no. We believe in one baptism for the remission of sins. I know that there are certain Orthodox churches that state that they do not recognize the baptism of a Catholic or a Protestant church as valid, and you must be rebaptized. That is not the position of the Greek Orthodox Archdiocese here in America. It is one baptism for the remission of sins, as we say in our creed. Okay? So the only time that you would have to be baptized is if you come from a different faith, or you know that you don't have any records of that you were baptized before. So you can't have any valid proof that you were baptized. Even in situations where I don't have the baptismal certificate, I will call the church where they attended, and I will ask them for their records. And if their records state that you were baptized, then I will take that as as proof that you were baptized, and then I will not rebaptize. So we make every effort to find out if your baptism was valid, and if it was, then you will only then be chrismated. So what you did here was correct. As far as a baptismal name, I cannot believe that you were not given a baptismal name. So if you still have contact with the church, the first place actually would be your parents. Ask your parents, when I was baptized, did we just use the name that I had, or did you assign another name to me? If their answer is, I don't know, okay, then see if you can contact and reach out to the church and find out. If it's a Catholic church, trust me, they're like the Orthodox Church, they have records. And then go back and look at the records, and your baptismal name will be recorded there. If it was a Catholic church, I cannot believe that you were not given a baptismal name. It's just something that was either forgotten, or it's just the name that you have right now. So I would try those two avenues first. All right, here's a question for our Holy Communion myths from Cornbread 144. I've always been scared to take communion because I haven't felt worthy. My old pastor used to warn us we may become sick if we were to take communion, if we weren't truly in communion with God. This is a completely foreign concept to me. You've brought it up. Love the videos. Again, thank you for that. All right, so you're right in some areas, and we've got to correct some things. Number one, I've always been scared to take Holy Communion. You should be scared. Every time I receive Holy Communion, you'll notice that I pause, I wait, because I am contemplating what it is that I am doing. I am holding the body and blood of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ in my hand, and I recall St. Paul's words, which says that you can drink to your condemnation if you don't receive properly, okay? Now, not worthily, because none of us are worthy to receive Holy Communion, okay? But receive properly. So should you be scared? 100%. But not because you are unworthy. All of us are unworthy. But as Jesus Christ said, the healthy have no need of a doctor, but those who are sick. And this is how we were taught at our theological school at Holy Cross, is that what Holy Communion is for us is the medicine of immortality. Saint Ignatius then said this, quoting Saint Paul himself. So we have to see this as a medicine for we who are sick. So that's why I say, should you be scared? Yes. Are you worthy? No. Should you receive it? Yes, you should, because in the Orthodox Church, it is essential for our salvation that we regularly receive the body and blood of Jesus Christ. But what St. Paul asks us to do is to receive properly. So what does that mean? That means the three things that we must do: fasting, prayer, and the giving of alms. And that we approach the cup with love in our heart, and that we do not have then adverse feelings or feelings of hatred towards our brother, whoever that is they are. Those things will force us or lead us to drinking to our condemnation. All right, Tsalagi 978, in response to an answer in Orthodox Questions Answered, number 219. I'm really confused here. Why would you okay someone to go to the Lutherans who lack apostolic succession? The Catholics or Oriental Orthodox, I could see. I could see even Orthodox Anglicans who don't have priestesses, but Lutherans. Okay, so what I want you to understand here is that if there is an Orthodox church in your area, that's where you go. But I've had many people on our OQA who have said, I am not reasonably near an Orthodox church. It's 100 miles or 200 miles away, okay? So they don't have the ability. So what I'm saying to them is what is the guidance and counseling that I've received, which is we don't want you to not be without a church. So what we're saying is that the options that are available to you are a Catholic church, are a Lutheran church, because these churches, Anglican church, Episcopal church, because these churches have a liturgical format. They're not free form. They at least have a liturgical format. Is it the best answer to the question? The best solution to the question? No, it's not. But I can't have a person not going to church. So what happens, and what I've said, is that that person contact the nearest diocese, even if it's 200 miles away, and talk to the bishop and say, here's my situation. What do you recommend that I do? There is a Catholic church nearby. There's an Episcopal church. There's an Anglican church nearby. What is your recommendation? He will offer that economia to you. Would you receive Holy Communion in those churches? Absolutely not. And what I've also said is that at least once or twice a year, you have to make the effort and you go to the Orthodox Church and you receive communion there. So we know that people need to physically be present in a community and a church. And through economia, we can allow them to do that. But we cannot allow them to take that so far as to receive communion in those churches. That's why I'm saying you have to make the effort, whether it's once or twice a year, that you travel to that Orthodox church and receive communion there. All right, our next one is from GGDiv HJK something. Okay, what's your view on some parishes using electric candles? All right. It's not the best solution, all right? But there are certain altars that are made out of wood. Not every altar is made out of marble. And because we've had a number of Orthodox churches that have burned down because candles have been not misused, but haven't been properly cared for, okay? And there's been spills or something like that. And unfortunately, it set the altar on fire and then sets the church on fire. So in those cases, an electric candle is a good solution. For our altar, which is all marble, we use that 7-day candle. So we actually use a candle because, again, we don't really have that worry about fire. I would say that probably the 7-day glass enclosed candles are pretty safe. But if the church decides, because there's not many people in that church, electric candles in that situation serve the purpose of meeting the symbology of the light of Christ, the eternal light. And if you look at our church, if you look at the icon screen, the iconostasi, those lamps are actually electric lights and not real flame. All right, from Love My Broncos. All right, sounds like a Ford guy. So how often should you go to church was the video here. The main reason why I don't go to church here in Denver, Colorado, is the gossip, cliques, bullies, egos, etc. People look down on you if you are not like them. Well, I am not like them, thank God. Terrible experience and community. My faith, solid struggling with my religion, and I have divorced myself from my community, self-preservation. Pray for those who care and have left the church. So, I am disappointed that this is your experience with the parish. The reality of the situation is that there is no parish, Catholic, Orthodox, Protestant, that you can go to that you will not face some degree of drama. I'm just sorry, that it doesn't exist, okay? If you're looking for the perfect church, then you're never going to find it, all right? Now, it is not fair to judge the entire parish on experiences that you have had. I have found in every church, when I was a layperson and as a priest, I have found that 99% of the people are solid Christians, and 1% do make a lot of troubles and problems and issues and get you to the point that you're like, man, I can't even believe that I'm here. But it is not right to judge the entire community based on those experiences. I find it very difficult to believe that every single experience you have had has been nothing but bullying, cliques, egos, and lying gossip. I just refuse to believe that, because I've never encountered that in my 65 years of going to church. Yes, have I seen that? Of course I have, but not in totality. Okay, so we have to be better than that. And you want to be very careful here. I am not like them, thank God. These are the exact words of the Pharisee who went into the temple and that Jesus made it a point to bring out, as opposed to the publican who beat his chest and wouldn't even raise his eyes to God. So you got to be very, very careful here about a judgmental nature, because you are the Pharisee here, all right? You have to look deeper. There are good people in every community. And the Orthodox Church does not believe that you can be saved in isolation. It's an ecclesia. What does that mean? It means that we are called out together to spread the gospel. Not you and not me and not Terry. All of us together are an ecclesia. We are a group of people that is called out. You cannot be saved in isolation. So you've got to give this a better try, because this will lead to your downfall. So in response to our How to Greet a Priest video, Breadcrumbs17 asks, how about no? We don't need a religious man to speak for us. Christ is the only way. I 100% guarantee and agree with that statement that Christ is the only way. All will come through me to be judged, all right? And because of that, each person is personally responsible for their relationship to Christ. I, as the priest, cannot save you. I cannot be in your stead. You have to save him. But what I can do as a religious leader is I can be the one that can help you on that spiritual path. I can point out to you what it is that you're doing that is not Christ-like. I can point out to you what you are doing that is Christ-like and motivate that behavior, okay? The example that I use here is that no doctor, no lawyer, no engineer coming right out of school is going to immediately be the expert in anything. And I'm telling you right now, if I went to a doctor's office and I wanted open heart surgery, and I asked the doctor for his credentials, and he said, oh, well, I never went to school because I don't need a leader. I can figure all this out on myself. I'd be out of that door so fast that it'd probably be off its hinges. So we as people always look for those people who are the experts, those people who have studied, the elders of whatever their profession is. So if we are that demanding with simple things like that, we're willing to trust our eternal salvation to ourselves? Doctor, heal thyself? I mean, this makes no sense at all. We always should seek out a spiritual guide. Is every doctor that you go to the doctor of your choice? No, because you're discerning. You go to him, you ask him a couple of questions, you see what his bedside manner is, you see how he behaves, you look at his training, and then you make a decision. You do the same exact thing with a spiritual leader, a pastor or a priest, is you look at them and you find out, are they able to help me on my spiritual path and lead me to salvation? Because I don't know what I don't know. And so we adopt them. In the Orthodox parlance, we call that a spiritual father, and they help guide us and they help lead us. So are we personally responsible for our personal relationship with Christ? Of course we are. Do we need a guide along that spiritual journey? You better believe we do, because when we try to fix things ourselves, we're going to get ourselves in a heap of trouble. So there's nothing wrong with looking to a religious leader and examining that leader, and then when we find that they are appropriate, is using them as a mentor, just as a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer coming out of school would do. And finally, in response to how to greet a priest, we've had a lot of questions on that, from I am standing right behind you. Gotta love that handle too. What about texting? Well, Some priests, like myself, love texting, and I'll tell you why here in a second, but I recognize that there are some priests that refuse to accept technology. They don't really like to email, they don't do any kind of texting, you gotta leave voicemails with them. You know, they're not my favorite people to call because I'm like, get with the program. Again, we should always use technology for its benefit. Can it be bad? Can it lead to bad things? Of course it can. Anything can lead to bad things. But there's nothing wrong with texting. I have parishioners, and mostly the younger parishioners, who are texting me constantly. And the reason I love text is because when people get on a voicemail, you know, they're leaving me like a half-hour message. On a text, you got to get right to the point. And as somebody coming out of corporate industry, that's what I want. Bottom line up front, get to the point. Texting does that. So please, text if you can. Oh, I guess I got to answer the question. How do I address a priest when texting? Easy. Hi, Father, got a question. There you go. Nice and simple. Hey, those were some awesome questions this week. I'm really looking forward to next week's questions. So again, remember, we're going to be back live August 7th. Keep having a great summer, and we'll see you soon. Remember, like, share, subscribe.